Hello and welcome to day 6 of my personal 30-day challenge to live stream for 30 consecutive days. As you can tell, I am MacGyvering today. I think this is the absolute definition of location independent because my mum hasn't been very well and I'm going to see her this morning. And for this all to fit, I couldn't do my live stream from my office at home. And so I have the kit. I have a thing called a Netgear, and it's got a couple of aerials and I've got it on my dashboard, and I can sit in my car here at the motorway services and I can still do my live. And the thing is, I can do that from anywhere in the world. Isn't that cool? This is like science fiction, isn't it? My dad died in 1990. And I often think he would have just loved this. He liked a bit of science fiction. Anyway, today I thought I would address the elephant in the room, really, when it comes to marketing for coaches. And the elephant in the room is, well, can't ChatGPT just do it all for me? And I can see how many coaches have believed that that is the case, that they can go to Chat or Claude or Perplexity or Gemini or any of the other large language models, and they can outsource the thinking for their marketing. And they can get ChatGPT to give them an ideal client and to tell them what that ideal client's struggling with and to give them a marketing message that connects with that ideal client. The problem with that is that marketing a coaching business is different from marketing any other kind of professional services. And Chat, Claude, Gemini, Perplexity do not understand that. And when you talk to any of them about coaching, they, like the general population, understand coaching to mean something different. Even when we say ICF coaching or EMCC coaching, I don't mean sports coaching, it still defaults to that. And the difference between somebody marketing, let's say, a sports coaching business and somebody marketing our kind of coaching business is that people know what a sports coach does and they know when they need the services of one. Now, with our kind of coaching, people don't know what we do. And even worse, they think they know and they're wrong. And that leaves us with a really huge problem to solve, because if you think of any other kind, I normally talk with my hands and my hands are holding my laptop and I'm finding it really hard to string a sentence together. Isn't that funny? Anyway, back to what I was saying. If you think of any other kind of service provider, a professional service provider, so a doctor, an architect, a psychotherapist, a counsellor, a therapist, physiotherapist even, everybody knows what they do. Let's include our sports coach in there as well. Everybody knows what they do. And what that means is that they know when they need the services of one of them. Now, with coaching, that's just not true. People don't know what we do, which means they have no idea of the sorts of things that we can help with. Now, as coaches, we tend to try and overcome that by trying to describe all the things that we can help with. But the problem with all of the things that we can help with is they're so vague, and whilst massively meaningful to us, I can help you reach goals and overcome limiting beliefs and mental barriers. I was reading something the other day that said that 97% of the population don't have a goal. So it's not exactly a strap line, is it? But if we go back to this idea that nobody knows what we do, but they think they know and they're wrong, then what that means is they're not looking for us. They're not looking for a coach. Now, there is a subset of society who tend to be in the upper echelons of corporate, for want of I'd be doing bunny ears if my hands were free, the inverted commas. I mean, the top levels of any organisations don't have to be private. They could be public sector, they could be non-profit, but the top levels of that kind of organisation, they often do know what coaching is. But they are in a huge minority, massively significant minority, because the rest of the world don't really know what we do. And so to articulate the value of what we do, we need to be so specific that it frightens a lot of coaches. As I was talking about a niche and about the industry sector or profession, we need to know which industry sector or profession, and trying to outsource the thinking that we need to do, which I can promise you is in way more depth than you think it is sitting here listening to me. Chat can't do it. And I know it can't because I've seen its output. Now, actually, we recommend Claude, not Chat. It's a way, way, way better copywriter, and it just produces better content. One of the things that I see on LinkedIn, for example, let's talk about LinkedIn, because we all know what that is. I can see where coaches have outsourced their thinking, or they've tried to outsource their thinking, and it's screamingly obvious because it isn't talking to anyone, or it isn't talking to people in a way that means that they're going to understand what it is that the coach is offering and want to buy it. Because we need to remember that in order for somebody to buy our service from us, they have to understand what's in it for them. What's in it for them that they would want to spend a professional sum with us as coaches? What do they get? What's in it for them? And it's a really good question. And it doesn't make them kind of, shallow and rat bags, because we want to know what's in it for us before we spend money. We want to know what we're going to get. And with coaching, it's incredibly difficult to describe an outcome, isn't it? So if we're sitting on the delivery side of our scales and I say, what outcome is your client looking for? Then the answer is it depends. And I know I've touched upon this before. When we're sitting on the marketing side of our scales, the creating the opportunities to do the delivery side of the skills set, then being able to articulate what's in it for them makes the difference between somebody going, I understand what you sell and I would like to buy it, and not having a clue. And I see it all the time. And let me tell you a little story, and it's quite an interesting story, this. Just humour me for a minute. Years ago, like 25 years ago, I was standing out on a sunny summer's day in the evening, having a glass of wine with some neighbours, and I was a teacher. One of the neighbours was a lawyer, one was an architect, one was a surveyor, and one was a doctor. And we were standing we were sort of talking about our general knowledge, our levels of general knowledge, and we're all obviously reasonably intelligent people, and we all thought that we had quite a good, general knowledge, and we were interested and spent a lot of time reading. So we all believed that our general knowledge was reasonably good. And the more we spoke, the more we realised that a lot of the stuff that we'd learned, we picked up from the TV. Now, back in those days, the internet wasn't even really a thing. So TV was where we got most of our news. TV and newspapers is where we got most of our news from. And as we were talking, what we realised is that we all thought we knew a lot because of what we've seen on the TV. But the opposite side of the coin is that each of us said that when our profession was kind of portrayed on the telly, that it was wildly inaccurate. And that, so from a teacher's perspective, there were television programs where you wouldn't be doing that in schools. You'd never get away with that in schools, or that's ridiculous. And every single one of the people in that group said that the same thing had happened to them, that every time they saw their profession portrayed on the TV, it was wildly dramatized and bore very little semblance to reality. And the reason that I'm telling you this is because we all thought we knew what their professions were about, because we didn't know what good looked like. We didn't know what working in an architect's office looked like. We didn't know what their standards were, or even what they did mostly. We didn't know any of that stuff. What we knew was what we'd been told. And it's the same with an LLM. We don't know what we don't know. And what we don't know is what good looks like in terms of client acquisition material. Just if we're just talking about content for LinkedIn, we don't know what good looks like. And one of the reasons that we don't know what good looks like is that we don't really see coaches who are marketing really effectively and successfully on LinkedIn. What we see is coaches who are talking about the coaching process, or people who are marketing to us, and they don't necessarily epitomize what good marketing looks like. Good marketing is basically invisible, really, to the people that it is not focused upon. And this is where not knowing what good looks like means that you can fall down an AI rabbit hole. Like, for example, this morning I saw a coach, she's a PCC coach, and she'd posted on LinkedIn about how important it was for you to check that the coach that you engage has a credential. And she was talking about ICF credentials. And I think she probably said that there are other credentials that are equally reputable. But what she'd missed is that nobody's looking for a coach. They don't know what we do. So they certainly don't know what ACC, PCC, or MCC means. They don't know. And what's important to us about our profession, and what's important to us about our professional standards and our reputation and our integrity on the delivery side of our businesses, is not what's important to them before they've become a client. Now, we only work with coaches who've taken what I call proper coach training programs. You know, you can't do a £27 Centre of Excellence course and come on one of our problems, or, you know, a Udemy $7 course and come on one of our programs. That's not who we work with. We work with coaches who have, as an absolute minimum, completed the 60 hours plus of coach specific training, and are working towards building their hours for a credential. And the reason for that is because I believe that our professional credentials and qualifications and all of the things that make us really good at what we do are incredibly important to running a financially viable coaching business. Now, the fact that my work is on the client acquisition side of the skill sets doesn't mean that I have no regard for the delivery side skill sets, because I absolutely do. And I think it's really important that people who get to work with a coach get to work with a qualified one, because there is all kinds of harm done by people who call themselves coaches. We all know, and we can get into an absolute frenzy about it. I know we can. But if we go back to this idea of not knowing what good looks like, AI is a tool. It's just a tool. And in the same way that a sewing machine or a drill is a tool, having access to AI and having it churn out something that looks great to you, the inexperienced and untrained eye, doesn't mean it is good. It's like the sewing machine and the drill. If you get a sewing machine, it doesn't make you a tailor. If you get a drill, it doesn't make you a cabinet maker. It doesn't mean that we couldn't use the sewing machine and I couldn't kind of make a skirt, but a tailor would look at the skirt and go, bless, you know, good for you. I'm no seamstress, by the way, so it wouldn't be great, because I don't know how to make it great, because I don't know what good looks like. I don't know what the techniques are to make that item of clothing to make it look good. The same with the drill. Doesn't make me a cabinet maker because I've got a drill. And yes, I'm sure I could knock something together with a drill and some screws, but that doesn't mean it would be a good thing. It doesn't make me an expert just because I've got a tool. And it's the same for AI. You cannot outsource the thinking to AI. It's a great tool when you've done the thinking, but it can't do the thinking for you. So in answer to the question, can't AI do my marketing? No, it can't. And it stands out a mile when I see coaches who have outsourced their thinking to AI. Now, one last thing before I disappear. If you want to know what good looks like, if you go to thecoachingrevolution.com and go to the About Us page and scroll down, you will see the Coaching Revolution mentors. You'll see their smiling faces, and underneath each of them, there's a clickable link to their LinkedIn profile. And if you go and look at their LinkedIn profile, you will see exactly who they're marketing to. You will see what their prices are. If you go to their About section, you will see that it's not written about them, but about what they can do for their potential client. And they're also not marketing to coaches. None of them is marketing to coaches. I'm the only person in the Coaching Revolution mentor team who does market to coaches. And I think that's really important. If you are learning your marketing skills from somebody who markets to coaches, only somebody who markets to coaches, they're marketing to people who understand what they do. Now, our coaches, our mentors, are not marketing to people who understand what they do. They're marketing to people who have no idea what coaching is in the main. So if you want to know what good looks like, go and have a look there. And I will see you tomorrow. So thank you for bearing with me with my kind of makeshift live stream, but done is better than perfect. I'll see you tomorrow.